Right. Hey, how's it going? I'm here today to talk to you about two specific films, both of which kind of have almost nothing to do with each other, which is exactly why I'm talking about them. Those films are the fantastic Fight Club by David Fincher from 1999 and the also fantastic Mad Max Fury Road from 2015 by the director of Happy Feet, George Miller. Now, the reason I'm talking about these specific two films is to do with their edit choices. One of the things about those edit choices is to do with singular frames. And I'm sure a lot of you will know about the single frames in Fight Club. I'll show you a few examples here. So you see what I mean, a flicker of a character that isn't actually there. But there are some other ones in Fight Club as well. There's one at the start with a disclaimer message from Tyler Durden, which is quite impressive, but that's only on the DVD release, I believe. I will check. I'll put up a little thing here that says it is. And if I do, I'll find the picture. Bam. Anyway, so they use single frames specifically to invoke a response from the audience. Now, Mad Max does this as well. In this clip here, I'm going to show you a small section where everything suddenly speeds up. You see that little flicker. It's almost slightly, just a tiny little bit of a flicker. That has a frame been removed from the timeline, specifically to make this sort of scene look more desperate. It's a chase scene. He's scared, he's terrified of these people. So, naturally, he's going to feel really desperate. He's going to be looking all over the place. So they take a frame out. Now, this seems like a completely opposite end of the spectrum from Fight Club, but it's not, and that's the important part. Because if you're sat there watching Mad Max, like here in the fight scene in the canyon, you can see Max firing his gun incredibly fast. Nobody can fire their gun that fast. That's a editing choice to make that situation look desperate, which works, which is good, because not only does it make the character seem more desperate, but without you knowing, you yourself have become involved. You feel desperate. That's what's making your heart rate beat ridiculously fast, because you're feeling this desperate suddenly. And although that is very different to Fight Club's meaning, it is still using that single frame to invoke something in you. I mean, if you've seen Fight Club before, you don't feel the same way as when you first watched it. But when you first watch Fight Club, you see that tiny flash, and you think, oh my god, what's happened? Is there something wrong with my TV? That's the first thing you think of. You don't think of, well, it's Tyler Durden. You think, what's that? So it makes you, again, become more involved. It immerses you. You think, you're suddenly questioning yourself. So not only does it make you question yourself, it also makes you more engaged in the film, because it makes you concentrate more. And that's what happens in Mad Max with these single frame removals. The frame comes out and it makes you concentrate on the action because you're suddenly feeling as desperate as the other characters on screen, which is good, because that's what the thing is supposed to be doing. Now, I mean, I know a lot of people will say, well, they're completely different, why does that make any difference? Why are you trying to compare the two? And I'm not trying to compare the two, I am simply trying to explain the effectiveness of a single frame. Now, there's a lot of stuff that used to go on in the 80s and the 90s about subliminal messaging in advertisements and TV and film, where people would put in a sudden flash of a can of Pepsi Cola. This video is not sponsored by Pepsi, just so you know. And people would think there was a sudden flash. I will show you an example of one now. And as you can see, it doesn't make you think, oh, I'm really thirsty. The only thing it makes you think is, I'm pretty sure I saw a Pepsi can there. It has no other effect on you whatsoever, because subliminal messaging doesn't work. But if it's used properly, it has the potential to have an effect on somebody, not necessarily plant an idea in their head, because that's absolutely ludicrous using subliminal messaging, because it does not work that way, because your brain doesn't have enough time to process it. However, using single frames to remove something or add something into a film can really make somebody, feel tense, make them feel anxious, make them question their own beliefs, which is exactly what, as for one thing, is exactly what Fight Club wants you to do. As a film, it wants you to question your own beliefs. It wants you to think about what you do with your life, which is what that edit does. It gets that point across properly. It makes you think about, am I really seeing what I'm actually seeing? Is everything that I'm seeing in this film what I think I'm seeing? Which is, funnily enough, the sort of message that they're trying to get across in Fight Club, which is, do you really need this? Is this particularly important to your life? Are the things that you think you know what you need to know? Stuff like that. And that particular thing happens in Mad Max. Not in that respect, but the effect given through the subliminal. And there are some specific bits in Mad Max using very similar techniques for Fight Club. However, it's not as single framed. There are some layered framing, which is incredibly effective, because it really grabs you and makes you think, oh my god, this is terrifying. With this specific scene here.
You let us die! You promised to help us!
And the reason that this is used is because it almost makes you think, well, this is not really happening. I know that that's not happening, but then as it becomes more extreme and more people come in, and then the sudden flashes coming up on the screen of eyes and all sorts, it suddenly makes you think, this is kind of terrifying. It again grabs you and makes you feel the same fear that Max is feeling on screen, which is good. Which is it's exactly what the idea of the film is trying to get across. It's trying to make you feel that fear. Moving on to another subject, but still kind of continuing with that same theme about single frames. Something which Fight Club picks up on, and if you've read the book, it's in the book as well, but it's shown a little better in the film. Back in 1999, films were still being shown on celluloid film reels. And if you've seen the film, you will know that Tyler Durden works as a camera projection operator. which means that he will cut the frames up and cut the reels up into one big spool, put them on the projector and wheel it around. And Tyler, to relieve some boredom, will cut out certain frames and of pornography and put them into bits of everyday family-friendly films. And this, back in 1999, was understandable because people knew what celluloid was, people knew how film projectors worked and how it was all on film reel. But using this same editing technique, having to cut up celluloid, nowadays is a thing of the past. Nobody uses celluloid anymore because, for one thing, it's very expensive, and also there's all sorts of dangers, like it's a bit flammable. People don't make it anymore because it's too expensive to produce. So a lot of the time, and especially in this film, in Fight Club nowadays, that idea of cutting out a single frame into a reel of celluloid wouldn't make any sense to some people, because physical film is a thing of the past. Everything's done digitally. I mean, I'm doing this digitally now. I'm recording this onto an audio recording software, and I'm recording this on a digital camera, which will then go into Premiere, and I'll whiz it together. So that has purpose. It makes sense in the context of the film, but it also makes sense in the context of the time it was made. Whereas Mad Max, on the other hand, because it's digital and all of the effects and all of the single frames are digital, they aren't being put in singularly with a scalpel and a bit of glue. So therefore, it's a completely different context in that respect. And those frames are there because they've been taken out. Those frames have been taken out because somebody's cut them from the editor. But because there's no such thing as celluloid anymore, in terms of projection, watching that film wouldn't have, watching Mad Max in celluloid, all those single frames would already be on there. They wouldn't be added in as an extra in the projection room because it's already on the film, which it wouldn't be because you wouldn't be able to put that on celluloid, but that's beside the point. What I'm trying to get at is watching Fight Club on DVD or Blu-ray or on a digital projector in a cinema has it almost loses the meaning of the celluloid, because there's a scene which I won't show because it will get removed, where right at the end of the film there is a single frame of a
nice big cock.
Is essentially what it is. And that, almost looks as though it's Tyler's work. So being projected using celluloid will make the audience think, I see what you did there. But if you project it with the digital, it doesn't have the same effect, because you then know it's just part of the cut. You don't think it might be something completely different. And that's the reason that I chose specifically these two films. I mean, yes, of course, there's a lot more to say about Fight Club in terms of the editing style and the way that things are put together. But I wanted to talk specifically about single frame editing. And hopefully you guys will agree on what I have to say on this, because I absolutely love these two films. These two films are, in my opinion, some of the greatest films of all time. I mean, Mad Max Fury Road is probably not the greatest storytelling film of all time, but in terms of an action film, it's one of the best made. It is a superb action film for what it is. Comparing that to a psychological action thriller, I say action thriller, but it's a psychological thriller like Fight Club, it's an entirely different kettle of fish. Yeah. You can't really compare them as a film, but when it comes to their editing techniques, there are some leeway between them. And hopefully you think the same. If you don't, sorry I couldn't convince you well enough, but hey. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I've been Zach. Peace out.